So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Sprite Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing the new Fallout TV series. So, let's get into it, shall we? The Fallout TV series. I had no plans to watch this show, because I have never ever played a Fallout game, nor have I seen any gameplay footage from a Fallout game as well. I've had virtually no interest in the Fallout games, so naturally I had virtually no interest in the Fallout TV series as well, because this is an adaptation, at least as far as I'm aware, this is an adaptation of the Fallout games in a TV format. So I had no interest in watching this show until last week, when I heard all the positive buzz surrounding this series, when all the reviews started to come out, and you had outlets like The Guardian giving this series 5 stars, which I don't think they've ever done for a video game adaptation yet. So I was quite surprised by the positive reviews coming out of this show, and that made me interested in seeing it. Plus, I was interested in seeing the series because we've had some, decent video game adaptations over the past year or so. A couple of years ago, we had The Last of Us TV show, which I didn't love quite as much as some other people did, but I did like. It felt a little too episodic for my liking. It jumped around a lot. It felt like it was trying to cover all the elements of the first Last of Us game, and it did feel like a video game adaptation, and in my opinion, the best video game adaptations shouldn't necessarily feel like video game adaptations, but I still liked that series. And last year, we had the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I really enjoyed, although at times it did feel like you're watching a video game play out, but it was still a wildly entertaining film, and I was hoping Fallout was going to be another good video game adaptation. I was even hoping that potentially it wouldn't actually feel like a video game adaptation, and instead it would just feel like its own beast, and not just relying on appeasing, not just relying on referencing things that only fans of the Fallout series, of the Fallout games, would know. So, because of the positive buzz surrounding the series, and because I heard it was another good video game adaptation, and I wanted to check out what another good video game adaptation was going to be like, I decided to start watching this series about a week ago now, and the Google plot synopsis for the series goes as follows. In a future post-apocalyptic Los Angeles brought about by nuclear decimation, citizens must live in underground bunkers to protect themselves from radiation, mutants, and bandits. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the Fallout series before watching it. And again, I want to reiterate that my point of view on this series is one of somebody who has never played or seen any footage of a Fallout game. That being said, I loved this series. I thought it was surprisingly fantastic, because it's a great video game adaptation, and it may be my favourite video game adaptation to date, because you don't have to watch the video games, have to have played or watched the video games even, to understand what's going on in this series. This series does a great job at introducing new viewers, new spectators, new audiences into the world of Fallout, but at the same time, it also feels like it's made by people who love the Fallout games, who want to include all the little details. It feels like it's made by people who have a passion for the Fallout world, and who have spent so many hours to days to maybe even months to maybe even years playing the Fallout game, and it really feels like it was made by people who love the Fallout world, but who also want to create a great narrative series out of it, and that's exactly what they did. Because as somebody who has never played or never seen any footage of a Fallout game, I want to reiterate that, because I genuinely hadn't before I started watching this show. As somebody who has never seen anything from Fallout game, I said that about 4 or 5 times now, I had a great time watching this series, because it's got a compelling narrative, and it's got well drawn out characters, to the point that I felt a lot of attachment to these characters by the end of the first series. And I'm saying the first series because it was just confirmed, I think, last night. I'm recording this on Friday right now. It was confirmed last night that a second series of this show is in the works, which I'm really excited about. I felt attached to these characters by the end of the series. And I love that. I love how the series progressed as it went on. It just got better and better and better to the point that on the last episode, I was completely hooked. I mean, one of my only criticisms with this show is it took a couple episodes to fully get going, to really, hit the gas and everything. It didn't feel like they were cooking with gas, that's the phrase there, cooking with gas until about episode 3, episode 4. The first couple episodes aren't bad, there's just a lot of setup, and you don't really know much about the characters intentionally until later on in the show. What I really loved is how you found out about these characters the more the series went on. You found out a lot more about Walton Goggins' character, the Ghoul, as the series goes on, and how you see his character in all these flashbacks to the past that inform the quote-unquote present day of the Fallout world that we see in this series. I love that type of storytelling. It reminded me of Apple TV Plus's Severance series, which came out last year now. I think it came out last year. It might come out 2022 even. I watched that the first time last year, and I could not believe how good that show was. And I do think this show has some resemblance in terms of its storytelling to Severance. In Severance, you're introduced to these characters, they're in a setting, you're not really sure why they're in their setting, and then throughout the series you see cuts to outside of the main setting of the show and things start to get revealed. This series has a very similar storytelling structure. You meet our main character, Lucy McLean, brilliantly played by Ella Purnell. You were introduced to a character like in the opening scenes, or might even be the opening scene of this series, and you don't know why she's in the vault. You don't really know what's happening in the vault, and then you find out, the more the series goes on, why the vaults exist. When Ella Purnell's character, Lucy McLean, gets out of the vault to go and find her father, which is the narrative thrust of the show, which I absolutely loved. I loved how we found out what was happening with the vaults the more the series progressed. It didn't just give us it all in the first couple episodes. It didn't just spoon feed us what was happening. It kept you engaged by making this a mystery about what are the vaults really intended for, what is going on in the outside world, what happened in the 200 years since the opening scene of this series, and where we pick up with Ella Purnell's character, Lucy McLean. What actually happened with all that? And the series creates this grand mystery surrounding it all, and this brilliantly compelling narrative that I loved. I love series like this, where it gets better and better, and the mystery gets more compelling as the series goes on. And I love how it's cutting back between present and past. I love series which cut back between the present and past. I love this type of storytelling. I love stories which have the whole fish out of water thing as well, because one thing that's great about this series, another thing that's great about this series even, is how we attach to these characters and how we are introduced to the world of Fallout, especially for someone like me who has, as already said about 10 times in this video already, as someone like me who's never played the games. I love how we're introduced to Lucy McLean's character, the character of Lucy McLean, played by Ella Purnell. I love how we are introduced to her in one of the opening scenes of this series. We instantly care about her because she's adorable and she's got this charisma, and she's one of the people with just a burst of energy as soon as we meet her, and she's absolutely wonderful. And so we care about her just like that in Ella Purnell's performance and in the writing. And we go on the journey around the world of Fallout with her. We care about her instantly, and then we become aligned with her throughout the rest of the series, and as she goes out of the vault and sees the wasteland, sees the world of Fallout, we explore it and we discover it with her. And I love all that, and I love how we meet Maximus alongside her. We get to know the character of Maximus, who's it played by, give a quick look. Aaron Moter, and apologies if I mispronounced his name. I love how we get to meet his character and get to learn more about his character when he interacts with Ella Purnell's character, Lucy McLean, the protagonist of the series. I also love how we get to learn more about the Ghoul as the series goes on, and all those character interactions between the main three characters work so well. And something I particularly loved about the series was how we were always focusing on those main three characters. Maximus doesn't appear in every episode this season. I don't think he's in either one or two episodes. Same with Walton Goggins' character, the Ghoul. But Lucy McLean, played by, Ella Purnell, she's the protagonist of this series, and she's in every single episode as far as I can remember. And I love that. I love how we didn't cut away to any other characters or any other stories when we're just getting invested and just getting into the stories we're watching. One of my problems with Last of Us Series 1, a series I like quite a lot, but another video game adaptation which I thought could have been better, was in episode 3 of Last of Us Series 1, we follow the story of this love story, and it's a great episode, and it's a really affecting love story to watch, but it happened in episode 3 of Last of Us Series 1, so I've just got invested in the main two characters in Last of Us. This is my thoughts when I was watching Last of Us Series 1. I've just got invested into the main two characters of Last of Us. Now we're jumping to two characters I don't really know anything about. And if that storyline, or if that episode was later on in Series 1, I think it may have worked a lot more. But the fact was, it was episode 3 of Series 1 of Last of Us. And I was a bit like, oh, why are you doing this so early? This almost feels like a Series 2 episode or a late Series 1 episode, and I think that would have worked a lot better. It's one of the reasons I didn't love Last of Us, because it kept jumping around, and I just wanted it to focus on what the character's name, Joel and Ellie's journey through this post-apocalyptic world. Whilst this series does what I wanted Last of Us to do, though, this is why I actually prefer Fallout as a video game adaptation over Last of Us, because we meet three main characters in the first episode. I'm not sure if Walton Goggins is actually in the first episode. I can't remember now. But anyway, we meet three main characters and we follow them throughout the rest of the series. And sure, not all the main characters are in every single episode, but they're in the majority of the episodes. And because of that, we feel aligned with these characters. We're not jumping about to any other characters. So, we don't lose focus. That's the point I'm making. We don't lose focus. So, this is an add-on. One thing I forgot to mention when I was actually recording this podcast, but I remember to mention as soon as I finished recording the podcast, as it always is this. I want to contradict myself just then when I said you already focus on the main three characters. You don't just focus on the main three characters. You also cut back to all the stuff happening in the vote that you originally were put in at the start of the show alongside Lucy McLean's character. You keep cutting back to that vote and this storyline with the protagonist's brother, which I thought was also very compelling and very interesting still. So we don't just focus on the main three characters, but we predominantly focus on the main three characters. Although we do cut back to other storylines here and there, which are still just as compelling and are still really great to watch and have an edge to them. Something I didn't mention when I was actually doing this podcast is that there's an edge to this series, and sorry for hitting my doorbell just then. There's an edge to this series which I really loved as well, because yes, it's playful, and yes, at times it feels like they're having fun with the concept of Fallout, and they know the audience they're appealing to, they know the demographic they're appealing to, but at the same time, there's an edge to this series, and there's a playfulness to it, and it makes it all that more fun to watch. And we don't just focus on the main three characters. We focus on some other supporting characters as well. I wanted to contradict myself and say that even the supporting storylines, which we do focus on here and there in the story of this show, are still just as compelling. Anyway, back to the podcast and back to me rambling on about Fallout. And we learn more about his characters as the series goes on. We see this brilliant, and I mean brilliant, character development with the main characters. And I just adore the storytelling and how, as somebody who had never played the Fallout games, I was introduced into the world of Fallout through the character of Lucy McLean, perfectly played by Ella Purnell. She is just wonderful in this series, and I I can't wait to see more stuff she's in, because I haven't actually seen her in anything else. And she was one of the reasons I was a bit hesitant to watch her show, because I was like, I haven't seen her in anything. I don't know if you're going to be that good at leading a series. And not to say she hasn't done anything else, this is probably my ignorance not watching her in anything else, but I was not that interested in seeing her as a lead, but I instantly cared about her as soon as she showed up on screen. And I think Ella Pennell did a great job. I think Aaron Moten did a great job as Maximus. And what made me smile a little bit was actually how this show reminded me of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, through those main two characters, through Lucy McLean, who reminded me of Rey in The Force Awakens, you know, somebody who has lived in the same place for so much of her life, and then she has to go outside of this place she's known and explore the world and really gets to discover all the, you know, the good and bad things about the world she lives in. It reminded me a lot of Rey. And then the character of Maximus, played by Aaron Moten, reminded me a lot of John Boyega's character, Finn, in Star Wars Force Awakens as well. This whole idea of a soldier who is tired of his role and wants to see more of the world and is flung into this war going on, basically. He's flung into somewhere he doesn't really know about, and he's put alongside this female character who he's starting to show a lot of affection for. It reminded me a lot of Star Wars Force Awakens, and I really liked that. I really liked the links, and I really liked how this series, because actually, as much as I like Star Wars Force Awakens, and if you don't know already, just look behind me, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Even so I liked Star Wars Force Awakens, and even so I loved the Rey and Finn character dynamic in that film, I think the character dynamic between Lucy McLean and Maximus is better in this series. I think it's better developed. I think they do a lot more with it. I loved that. I loved Walton Goggins' storyline and how there was so much emotional depth to that storyline. Something I didn't expect to say about a Fallout series. There's so much emotional depth to what's going on in the vault in Walton Goggins' storyline, where it's just ghoul, and in the storyline between the main two characters, you know, Lucy McLean and Maximus. There's so much emotional depth in all of that, which again is something I never expected to say about a video game adaptation, but here we are. And also, this series is wildly entertaining. It's got this dark humour about it, which I loved. There's so much dark humour, which really made me laugh out loud. Also, there's a lot of shocking moments and a lot of squeamish moments as well. And I loved how imaginative it was. I mean, again, I haven't played the games, as I've said about 15 times in this review now, but I don't know how much of the series is actually also in the games, but I love the world of Fallout, and this series made me care about the world. I can't tell you how many times I watched a post-apocalyptic dystopian future drama, whether it's in film or in a TV show, and I haven't really cared about the world too much, and I haven't really got attached to the characters because they felt too distant, because we're in a post-apocalyptic future. Whilst here, they're in a post-apocalyptic future, but I did care about the characters, and I actually got attached to the characters, and I got interested and more attached to this world as it went on. It's a really fantastic series that just gets better and better the more it progresses, and it caught me off guard, but with how good it was, because, you know, it's a really compelling show more than anything, and it's engaging, and it gets better and better as it goes on. I know I said that before, but I'm going to say it again, because God, the last couple episodes of this season had me completely hooked. If I was to have any criticisms, well, I'm not going to go into any small criticisms I had, because I had such a wonderful time watching the show, but my biggest criticism, and it's not really a criticism of the writing or anything with the production of the show, because this is a beautifully produced series. So well produced to the point that everything in the series feels so tangible. You know, you almost feel like you can actually go and explore the world of Fallout. But going back onto what I was saying, which you actually can, by the way, in the video game format, but going back onto what I was saying, my biggest criticism is the way it was released. If this series released weekly, God knows how popular it might have become. I think releasing it all at once on Prime Video and making it so you can binge watch it, I hate that phrase. I hate that phrase so much. But making it so you can binge watch it, I do not think was the best decision, because imagine if this released weekly. Imagine how many people would have been theorising over the mystery surrounding the votes, and I think it would have been so much better and so much more satisfying when you get to the end, whilst I kind of rushed watching this show so I could do my review and get it out there so people will still probably be interested in what I'm going to say about the series, because I can guarantee you now in a couple of weeks' time, maybe not even a couple of weeks' time, maybe in a couple of days' time, people aren't going to be interested in Fallout anymore because they released it all at once and they made it so you can binge it. And I didn't actually binge it. I watched it over the space of about a week, which I don't usually do with the show, and that tells you how much I was into it, because sometimes I take time watching a series, a little too much time, but with Fallout, I was totally into it. I was looking forward to watching every day I did over the past week, but I kind of wish I got to watch it every week instead. And because Season 2 is now in production, I really think they need to make Season 2 into a weekly release, because it would be so much better, for the series. And I think it would please. I think the series would get out to a lot of people more, because shows which release weekly, they gather more people watching their series as the shows goes on, as the series goes on. But here, I don't think you're going to get that with Fallout, and I think Fallout Season 2 needs to release weekly, because I think it would have been even more popular, and the mystery surrounding the votes would have been even more exciting when it's revealed to be when the mystery is revealed in the last episode, when what's really going on, when all the pieces come together. I think it would have been so much better, because instead you watch the series over the space of a week and then the mystery's over, and now I have to wait at least a year for Fallout Series 2. But instead, they could have released it weekly, and then could have waited 6 to 8 weeks to find out what the mystery is all about. And I just think it would have been so much more satisfying and exciting when you got to that finale. But still, I really, really enjoyed this show. Again, so much more than I expected to, and it is such a great video game adaptation. It really is, and I'm saying that as somebody who's, again, never played the games. As I said about 20 times in this review now, I've never played the games, and I felt like this was made by people who had played the games, who loved the games, and who wanted to make the best series possible. But Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy are also behind this series. Now, they're not the people who have created this series for Amazon Prime. They were just executive producers, and Jonathan Nolan has directed some of the episodes in the series, and you do feel that Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy input. And if you don't know who Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy are, they are the people who are behind HBO's Westworld series, which was coming out over the past couple of years, and I loved Westworld Series 1, and this series does have a bit of that flavour of Westworld about it. I think it's better than Westworld, but it has a bit of a flavour of Westworld about it, which I really, the best of Westworld at that. So yeah, I think that also served the series in making it, just even greater than it had any right to be. It's surprisingly fantastic. It's got this great dark humour about it. All the characters are brilliantly well realised, and you realise how much the characters are well written as the series goes on. The narrative is compelling. It's so entertaining to watch. It's so strange, and that means it's not going to be for everybody, but I love that about it. I really had a fantastic time watching this series. And that is why I'm going to say that Fallout, I'm going to say that it's a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 because I didn't think it was perfection. So this is just one more quick little add-on to say this show is perfect for what it is and completely delivers on what it needed to. It's a great video game adaptation because it doesn't feel like you're playing through a video game like Super Mario. It doesn't feel like you're watching somebody else play through a video game, should I say, like the Super Mario Brothers movie did a little bit. And it also doesn't feel too episodic, like all the episodes go into one another, they thread into one another, and it feels Like, it's been made by people who love the Fallout video games, but it does a great job at introducing new audiences, new viewers, new spectators into the world of Fallout. And I think it is... I don't think it is perfect. I don't think it's a perfect show, but it's perfect for what it is. It's so much fun, and that's everything it needed to be. I was really, really into it, you know? And it's such a well-produced show. You know, it's the world of Fallout. I know what it says, but I'm going to say it again. It feels so tangible, and it actually made me more interested in playing the Fallout games, which I had virtually no interest in before watching this series. And I'm still not sure if I'm going to play the Fallout games, because I'm not a big video game player. I don't play a lot of video games. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie when I say I'm interested in playing the games now. I'm a little bit interested, and that's saying a lot from someone like me who's very picky with the sort of games that I do play. Yeah, this series is just great. It's so good, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it to anybody who hasn't even played the games either, because I think you'll get a lot out of it. It's strangely wonderful, wildly entertaining, and surprisingly brilliant. And so, all in all, as what he said before, and as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, Fallout is a 9 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, if you have seen Fallout, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Maybe you hated the series and thought it was one of the worst TV shows you've seen over the past couple of years, or maybe you thought this was one of the best TV shows you've seen over the past couple of years. Whatever your thoughts are on Fallout, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you didn't know already, and if you're watching this on YouTube, hello and thank you to watching me on YouTube, watching this podcast on YouTube. If you didn't know already, you can check out his podcast on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. And if you are already listening to me on Spotify, thank you very much to my Spotify listeners. You should also know that you can check me out visually. Yes, you can watch this podcast on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform as well. And wherever you watched or listened to this podcast, thank you as always for watching or listening to these podcasts. Long outro, isn't it? And look forward to many more podcasts. Don't forget to like and subscribe on this podcast, of course. And look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I suppose that's it. So I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.